Having more powerful brakes will help you control your braking, also enable you to brake later. This will help you when there's technical, rough and particularly downhill terrain, so it'll save you seconds. However, what if you're not racing and into saving seconds? It'll still help you. Having more powerful brakes will give you confidence in your bike handling skills. The hydraulic calipers we've had for pretty much the last 10 years or so have been 2-piston. So there's a piston each side of the caliper, pushing on a brake pad each and pushing in on a rotor. Now we've got 4 pistons, so that means we've got 2 pistons on this side and 2 pistons on the other side pushing in on a brake pad. So there's a larger surface area on the piston pushing on a bigger brake pad. And a bigger brake pad means more surface area grabbing onto the rotor, more powerful brakes, but not only that, a larger brake pad will also wick away more heat, so more heat dissipation, less brake fade. Now this is Wheeltop's new 4-piston hydraulic brake set, the model M3000. These brake calipers are CNC machined from one piece of aluminium. Unlike traditionally we know brake calipers have been 2 pieces bolted together. So this means that there's less likelihood of any oil leakage, and also being one piece, it's a stronger caliper than the 2-piece system. So as you can see, there's 2 piston caps on the outside of the brake caliper. On the inside, it's concealed. This brake set also comes with the brake levers, the hydraulic hoses, and there's the brake fluid inside the hoses and in the levers and in the calipers, of course, all ready to go. And it also comes with a bunch of some barbs and olives and some nuts and bolts there, which we'll have a look at. Let's have a closer look at this whole system. The calipers come with these yellow transport keepers, but not bleed blocks, so you don't get bleed blocks with this kit. They've machined off a lot of the material from the caliper body where it's not necessary, so it looks very compact and minimalistic. Plastic plug filling the hose connector port. Don't remove it until you're ready to install the hose and its connector parts. And in case you're wondering what these aluminium caps are for, don't remove them, because this is where the CNC machining tool went to mill out the piston holes. They're not a functional part of the caliper. The brake lever. This is your hydraulic hose port via a banjo connector. And there's 2 ports, so you can put the hydraulic connector either on the top or the bottom of the lever. The lever reach adjustment knob, so you get the reach nice and comfortable for your length of fingers. The brake fluid reservoir is under this cap. And the bar clamp, so you can install the lever without having to remove your bar grips. The weight, if this really matters to you. The caliper's 121 grams each, so a pair 242, and the levers 103 grams each, so that's 206 grams a pair, all up 448 grams for the set, not including the hoses and the mounting hardware. Let's just take the brake pads out, so I'll take out the brake pads pin, but the safety clip to hold the brake pad pin in, unfortunately Wheeltop have chosen to use that same little circlip washer thing behind here. It's so teeny, you have to use a very small screwdriver to get it off, and if it pings off, you're going to find it difficult to find it. Here we go. It didn't go. That's it there. The rest is easy, 3mm Allen key. So there's our brake pads. They're quite big. Let's have a look at an Ultegra Road set. You can see they're significantly bigger. And I've taken the pads out of my mountain bike XT brakes, the OXTs. They're bigger than the road ones, but they're still nowhere near as big as these Wheeltop ones, the 4-piston brake pads. As you can see, the backing plate is bigger significantly. The brake pad material itself is not resin or metal, it's carbon ceramic. Now these brake pads as a set are not available at the moment from Wheeltop as a separate item. You can't buy them as yet, however I'm sure they'll have them in the near future because this caliper set has just been released, so they'll have them soon. In the meantime, if you do happen to chew through a set, which I very much doubt before they have them as a separate item, then you can use Shimano ones. They'll fit, as well as some generic brand that you might get from AliExpress. Just make sure you get the measurements right if you're going to buy them from AliExpress. Also hope Mono M4 pads will fit, and the Galfa pads shown here. And if the brand name pads are too expensive, AliExpress ones, here's some for $7.79 a pair. I can't guarantee the quality, but you never know, they might be quite good. The pistons themselves are made of a ceramic material and the diameter is 14 millimeters each piston. The hydraulic hose lengths for the rear 1630 millimeters and for the front 850 millimeters. Outside diameter 5 millimeters, inside diameter 2.3, which is suitable for the Shimano BH59 olive and barb. And the whole system uses mineral oil. The calipers will work with 160 or 180 millimeter diameter rotors, and the thickness of 2.3 millimeters is recommended. This caliper set that I have are post mount, but you can also get them in flat mount. Have a look at the levers, and the hose connection is a banjo connection, and they do this for a couple of reasons. First of all, these levers, both of them are identical, and you can put these connectors on either side of the lever. So one side there's a little port so you can attach the hose, and the other side is the same. So you can put this banjo connector or your hose on either side of the lever. So you can use your left lever on your right side and vice versa. So they're compatible either way. The other reason is you can have movement. The banjo connection enables movement like that. So if you've got your cables maybe even going internal, a lot of mountain bikes now going internal cabling, this will help you with the internal routing. The band clamp here has two pieces, so ideal for carbon fibre bars. It won't crunch your bars so much as long as you don't over tighten it. So that allows for a nice even compression. So you can use these clamps both on aluminium and carbon fibre bars. The brake fluid reservoir under this cap here is vertical. So whichever way you have your lever, the bubbles are going to float up and out through that little air hole there. So that way you can have your lever either way. The size of the lever, let's have a look at the thickness first. It varies, it goes fairly thick from the bottom up to here. I'd say it'd be a 2-finger or even a 1-finger job anyhow. So I measure about halfway on the lever body there at 14.69 millimeters, so 14.5 millimeters across there, across the middle. So 2 fingers, no problems, 1 finger, absolutely. And if you're like me and you just go to grab, no matter what, I've just got to stop, you can grab on. I can fit 3 fingers on there, no problem, before you hit that little knob there. Talking about knobs, I'm not a big fan of having bolt heads and knobs sticking out on off-road equipment. Why would you want something sticking out like that? Yeah, I know it might be handy for adjusting, but why would you want to be adjusting your throw or anything else while you're riding along? Why don't you set it before you go for a ride? So rather than have these things sticking out which are easily knocked and broken or just going to adjust themselves, even vibration I reckon might. Anyhow, I really don't understand why they have adjusters sticking out. Why can't you just have grub screws? Adjust it, yep, get the feel for it, right, it's set, don't touch it. You don't need to adjust things while you're on the fly. Why do they have these knobs sticking out? They're just begging to be hit by a branch and damaged. The finish on the calipers and the levers is like a semi-satin finish, so it's not overly shiny and it's not a matte colour either. Typical of Wheeltop, it pretty much matches all their group sets, the gravel group set and the road group set as well. So that's the finish. The body itself, as I said, is aluminium CNC machine from one piece. This is a little magnet, strong little magnet, so it's not sticking. So it's definitely aluminium. Brake pads also is aluminium, the backing plates, those covers there, aluminium. There's a bolt there going through, that's steel. The brake pin bolt is steel. Where else is there? There's not too many bolts on these calipers, I can tell you. I think that's it. So there you go, pretty much all made of aluminium lightweight material. The shifters, there's a few more bolts on the shifters, lots of them, including that knob, which is not magnetic. That one's steel sticking to it. That one's steel sticking to it. The ones on the bleed cover, the reservoir, they're not, they're stainless steel. The ones on the clamp are not, they're stainless steel. That one here on your banjo clamp, of course, on the port, that's steel. That bit here, just as a matter of interest, that's aluminium. Of course, the body, the rest of the body's all aluminium. So only steel bolts where necessary for strength probably. The rest are stainless steel or aluminium. The feel of the lever blade, there's no dimples or crosshatch marks on there for grip for your fingers. If you're wearing gloves, well, that probably doesn't matter because gloves are usually quite sticky on the lever body anyhow. So it's not rounded and it's not absolutely square. It's really hard to tell without riding how they feel. If anything, just to your skin on your fingers, maybe a little bit slippy. Would have been probably nice for a few little dots on there. So there you go, Wheeltop, put a few little dots on your brake lever, might help for the grip. One good thing about these calipers, as opposed to the other Wheeltop calipers that I've had with that little clippy bit, which is easily lost. Where is it? Here it is. It's so small, I can't even pick it up. That little C-clip thing, that small little clippy goes on there. Well, this time on this caliper, your Shimano one clips on there. I'll just see if I can put it on there for you and show you. There you go, it fits on, no problem. So if you lose that little clip, then you can put the Shimano one on. Right, let's put this brake set on the bike and take it for a ride and see how they go. So here's the bike we're going to put the brakes on. At the moment, the old XT are on there, plenty powerful enough for me, and I've got 160 rotors front and rear. So we're going to replace the levers and the calipers, and we're going to use the same 160 rotors. Comparing the size of these 4-piston calipers to the Shimano XTs, you can see they're pretty much the same size, much to muchness. And that's with the fins on. Let's take the fins out, like the Shimano ones have no fins on them, and they look very much the same size. In fact, maybe even the Wheeltop 4-piston ones look a bit smaller. And having a look at the shifter, the lever on the Wheeltop one looks a bit longer, only because it's closer to the camera, but they're almost the same. The lever is a little bit longer on the Wheeltop one. However, the hydraulic piston barrel is not on the Wheeltop one, it's completely not there. And so the Wheeltop one looks almost like a cable pull lever, just plain and simple. Firstly, remove the old brake system from this bike. Zip ties holding the hoses onto the lugs on the frame, easy to remove. And the front hose held on by a plastic clamp holding onto the bridge of the fork. Now you can install these new Wheeltop levers without taking your grips off. However, I can't take the old XT levers off without taking the grips off, so off they come. Removing the calipers, much easier with the wheels off. 5mm Allen key, front caliper off. As you can see, these are post-mount brake calipers. Rear caliper off, and as you can see under the caliper is a stack of washers. Not the best of ideas, but that's the way the bike came, and that's the way I've had it for all these years. Ideally, I should be using one of these instead of the stack of washers, but I haven't got it here in stock, and at the moment it would take about a week and a half to get here, so it would slow the video down a week and a half. Don't want that. And a bit of a clean since we've got the calipers off the bike. Nice new brake caliper, and I'm going to put this rusty old washers on there. Anyway, to compare these calipers to the old ones, the XTs, at least we're using the same washers. Front one, we had that washer on the inside there. With the levers, just checking the bolt threads, and there's no lubricant on any of these clamp bolt threads, so we need to put some grease on them, and a little bit of grease on the thread on the body of the lever as well. Now's the time to figure out which side you want your front and your rear brake. For me, I'm having my rear brake on my right side and front on the left, so that means the lever goes that way. That means also that this hydraulic hose comes out at the top for the rear. So I want that to come out to the bottom because it looks cleaner and better. So we're going to have to change the hose over, so I'll just show you how to do that. So you can put it underneath. Undo the banjo clamp bolt with its hose connected. Now some brake fluid probably come out, so put a rag underneath for spillage. There we go, easy off. Turn the lever upside down and remove the corresponding port bolt. Now put that bolt on the opposite port and tighten 6 Newton meters. Then screw the banjo clamp with its hose into the port underneath. 6 Newton meters, done. Putting the levers on the bars, and as you can see, you can put the lever on the bar without removing the grip. We won't tighten the clamp bolts up all the way yet, because chances are I'll probably have to swivel the lever a bit. And voila, the brake hose is now underneath the lever. Much better. Now we've got the levers on, now we just need to attach your hose through your frame. So through the hole or the ferrule that you've got in your frame, the end there is 5 mil, same diameter as your hose, so you just thread it through all the way through. Or for me, I've got zip ties, I just zip tie it on those clamps, very easy. And changing over that clamp for the front brake hose. Now get your hose length right, make sure you've got enough for your steering at the front, but not too much, it's all flappy and sticking out and looking ugly. So for most of you, 99.9% of us, unless you're really, really tall and ride a big frame, you should have some excess hose that you'll need to cut off. From one of the calipers, removing the plastic dummy bung. Now it's quite a deep port where the hose goes in, so it's a good idea to measure the hose first, otherwise you might cut the hose too short. I measure down to about here, so I'll mark it with a white marker, then we can cut the hose right there. Compression nut first, then the olive, then the barb, press in the barb. Smear of grease on the compression nut thread and the olive. In the port and do it up. These swivel banjo connectors are a good idea because, especially for your rear one there, as you turn your bars, the actual banjo connector swivels a little bit to ease any twisting pressure on the hose, the plastic hose on the connector itself actually swivels along with it. And for your front one as well, if you've got an obstacle here, like I've got my gear shifter, you can go around it, you can either go underneath or whatever you want. So it allows a little bit more flexibility of where you want to put your hose. Of course, your front one doesn't move, it just stays static once you've got it connected. Okay, time to bleed the brakes. Make sure you've got enough brake fluid in the system and no air bubbles. Now you need a brake bleed block like this, not like this. They come with these. Don't use these, use these. And the reason is you need to take your brake pads out of the caliper and insert the bleed block. You don't want to go bleeding your system, and if you accidentally get oil on those brake pads, it's a big problem. Very hard to get the oil out. So take your brake pads out and insert your bleed blocks. If you haven't got any, definitely get one, at least one, preferably two. Removing that fiddly circlip from the caliper first so you can get the brake pads out. Really, this circlip has to be replaced. Bad idea, Wheeltop. They're too easy to lose and can't find them again. Pads out, block in. And we've lost some brake fluid by cutting the hose shorter. That's normal, so we'll just top it up. Now there's two ports, this one at the back of the lever toward yourself. It's a larger thread connector, a bit like the SRAM ones, there it is. And then you can put the funnel on. This is the bleed port for the caliper. Turn the caliper on the side. If it's attached to the bike like I have, then you turn the whole bike sideways, so it's horizontal, and that way the brake fluid won't leak out. Put in the connector. Ideally, Wheeltop should have supplied these connectors, but they didn't. Anyhow, most kits have this size connectors. I won't go through the whole bleeding process, there's plenty of videos on how to do that, but I'll point out any handy hints for you, anything to do with this Wheeltop brake set that's necessary to know. Like this clamp, it's really handy for holding the syringe onto almost any bike tube size. You can get these clamps for like $1 from your hardware store. It's in the electrical department. And then I just glued 2 half bits of foam in there to protect the frame and hold the clamp in place. Works a treat. Usual process, push fluid upwards because bubbles go upwards with it and into the funnel. Activate the lever 10, 20 or 30 times, whatever it takes to get all the bubbles out of that system. Tap the hose, that's another way of getting the bubbles upwards. No more bubbles, remove the funnel and replace the port screw. Then remove the connector and the syringe from the caliper and replace that port bolt and clean up any spillage with isopropyl alcohol and a clean rag. All done, and do the same to the rear brake. Remove the bleed block, clean the inside of the caliper, the piston heads. Putting the brake pads back in the caliper, make sure the L for left, is on the outside, of course R for right's on the inside, and put the transport keeper back in place. While I'm bleeding the rear one, I'll just show you that the funnel screws into the other port just straight in as it is. It's a smaller hole. So take your pick whichever port you want to do the bleeding from. Finally, the brake pad holding pin clip or safety clip, and it's not going to be those fiddly C clips from Wheeltop. I'm going to use one of these Shimano type ones, much better. Right, just before I go on about how the brakes ride on the bike, just going back to the workshop, putting the brake set on the bike, fairly simple. The brake bleed is with mineral oil. I just use Shimano mineral oil, work the treat, no problem. The brakes are easy to bleed. That's the one thing I find about Wheeltop. All the Road TX, the GEX for the gravel, and the OX mountain bike set, very easy to bleed, very easy to get any air out. The system just comes straight out. So the connectors, the little hose bit and the funnel on the top, you can get from AliExpress. Just use the cheap ones, that's all I use, and it was fine. The swivel banjo clamps, great idea, and the fact that you can swap them from the top to the bottom or vice versa, great idea, because I put mine from top to bottom, get the cables out of the way. You don't really want them up the top sticking out. Get them out the way as much as possible. So that's very easy to do. Onto the riding and how did the brakes feel and how did they perform. First of all, I didn't do any long downhill descents, so I didn't get to test the brake fading, so I can't really comment on brake fade. So get that out of the way, but I'm sure they'll be okay because they've got an aluminium backing plate on those brake pads and they're quite large, so it should be able to, and the fins as well, should be able to wick away the heat quite readily, quite easily. Now the feel, if ever I've felt what modulation on hydraulic brakes is, this would be it. Now, modulation is okay if it's done right, but when it goes too far, there's too much modulation, it ends up being sloppy for the first, and what I found with these ones, for the first half of the lever swing, there's very little braking. For about the first third, it starts to come on, about the third way of the lever, so you've got to move your lever a third before you even start to get any braking, and even then it's very light. Then you get to about halfway and it's just slowing you down. Then when you get to about 2/3 of the lever stroke in, bang, all of a sudden you realise you've got some brakes. Yes, they are powerful, and I would say they're just a little bit more powerful than the old Shimano 2-piston XTs that I had on there. And I didn't give the brakes any chance to embed any of that material onto the rotors. It's still got the brake pad material from the Shimano XT brake pads on there. So straight away I realised I got some powerful brakes even without embedding any material from the brake pad to the rotor. So maybe they might get more powerful. I don't know, I can't comment on that. Need a fair bit more riding for that. But nevertheless, it's definitely got some power there. Personally, I think there's too much modulation in this braking system. 2/3 of your lever throw before you even get to any effective, powerful braking. And I don't know if there's any way of making them any more powerful earlier on. Maybe someone who gets these brakes might be able to figure something out. I can't figure out. I've got the brake pads very, very close to the rotors, not rubbing, but very, very close. It almost feels like there's air in the line. You know how the brakes go spongy? But I know there's not. First of all, because I know I bled them properly and no bubbles came out after a long time. And secondly, is when you get to that 2/3 of your lever stroke, all of a sudden the brakes are really, really tight. You can feel it bang, it almost hits a wall and then your brakes grab. Saying that, once you reach that 2/3 and you've got the powerful braking, it's not going to leave your bike behind and you're going to go over your handlebars. No, it's not like that. It's not like the brakes are on and off. It just means you can feel the power coming in. It's still controllable. A couple of points during the ride, I put the front brake on really, really hard, and sure enough, compresses the suspension fork, and you could see the tyre like it squashes as well. Plenty of power there in the braking. Now I do have a few gripes with the brake set. First of all, the calipers are fine. Nothing to do with the calipers. Calipers themselves and the brake pads, absolutely fine. It's the levers I have a beef with. I'll just tilt this bar end out the way so you can see the lever. First of all is lever slop. There's a little bit of slop here and you think, oh, it's only a little bit, that's okay. But when you're riding, it actually rattles. Hear that? Both sides, same thing. Then there's the adjusting knob barrel. That's also loose in the lever body. Not only that, the adjusting knob here, the lever throw adjusting knob, is so loose now. It's got a little drop of Loctite on there. So that's sort of worn. I've adjusted it a few times. Anyway, and it moves. As you're riding along, the vibration will make that knob move. It's very easy to move. You just rub your finger along it and the knob turns. So not a very good idea there. If anything, you'd have to put some more Loctite on that thread to stop it from moving when you're riding on the vibration. It does work. The lever throw is good. Plenty of lever throw. Wind it out and it's like, you have to have pretty long fingers to reach and you can wind it all a long way in. So far in, I reckon, yeah, that's no good. You've got no braking power. Oh yeah, a little bit of braking power. But anyway, So that's my gripe for a start, is this looseness. You can't tighten everything up. Just undoing this nut here, you can actually undo it. And you can see there's a sealed bearing inside here. Little sealed bearing. So it's great that there's sealed bearings, both the top and the bottom there, as you can see. However, it's still loose in the lever body. You could probably fiddle around, put a few exact size washers in to minimise the slop there, but really it should have been done in the factory before they sell them. Just as a quick update at this moment, I sent a draft of this video to Wheeltop, and they are aware of the issue of the loose barrels in the levers. They say in this email they replied they're addressing it and they're fixing the issue so that on the production run there'll be no loose levers. So that's good news. Sometimes it happens with reviews on products. They want some feedback so they can improve it. This brake set was a prototype sent to me, and that's why sometimes these things happen. So the issue should be fixed on the ones that they're selling on their website now. So all up, I'm only going to give this brake set a 7 out of 10. The calipers are great, no problem whatsoever. It's just the levers that let this brake set down. So if they can improve that lever system, the modulation, make it somehow that you can adjust that modulation so how you like it, not just have a fixed, very sloppy sort of modulation. So at 199 euros, it's sort of in between the really expensive ones and the cheaper AliExpress ones. So would I pay 199 euros for this brake set? I would say if the levers could be improved, yes. Otherwise, no, not at this stage. That's my verdict on these brakes. See you soon.